Hey guys, we're live. This is the first of 3 shows for us today. We have Ty for this one, thank God.
Did you
2 more
did you get
shows.
my message about 2 o'clock?
Yeah, he's good, right? He's
What's
still
that,
good.
sir?
He's still good, right?
Yep, I tested out the video and everything, so he should be fine.
Fantastic.
I just hope everybody has some questions because the only thing I've looked at is
Fuck.
some. Yeah.
I'm just gonna talk to him. I mean, he's not a Corsi guy, right? I mean, let me just get this straight. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've read his book, and I have not studied Corsi, so I don't know what the difference is necessarily between his stuff and Corsi stuff, but.
Well, yeah, okay.
Well, you can explain to me later. We'll talk. It's very good. His book's awesome now. I showed his book to Bill Mouse has read his book too. So Josh, now you've got to do it. You've got to do the ice challenge.
Yeah, I'm going to do that at my aunt's house in a few hours. And then Mike's on deck.
Mike.
I'm already prepared. Believe me. People are gonna hate my guts, but I'm prepared.
That's so funny. That is hilarious. I did get the NHL on the iPad. I did the hockey news thing on the iPad. So. But I'd like to go off that for this show. I think it'd be fun. But we also have some news stuff. So we'll start with the news and we'll see where we get. And if we just
Did you see Bettman's Ice Bucket Challenge?
No.
Yeah, he was in shorts apparently.
Pretty funny. He did it in Columbus at the golf course.
Hi, have you been hit up for this yet?
3 times now.
3 times?
I have a video. I haven't posted it yet.
Okay.
I might have to do it again though, just because since that challenge I've had more.
Holy
You're only supposed to do it once, I think, though.
Yeah, I donated as well, but I figure it's Friday. Let's have some fun. I'll do the bucket challenge. I'm gonna have to have like my sisters do it or something. I have 2 sisters, 14 and 12. They're probably gonna love that. So.
Is it warmer down there than up here? I gotta go and do it in 50-degree weather today.
It's 55 in Buffalo, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm gonna freeze my ass off doing it.
It's funny because it's like if you do it on like a 95-degree day, I mean, it's not really a challenge. It's refreshing.
Yeah, exactly.
And on day today, it's gonna be kind of rough, but oh well.
I'll be right back. I gotta grab my iPad because I don't have it in here.
No problem. Okay, yeah, that's I know it was raining and cold when I did mine, so I'll throw that out there. I don't know how I get it done with the rain. It was like really pouring. My kids the funniest thing is my kids' reactions. They just loved it. Greatest thing they've ever done. They were just so psyched about the chance to be able to do this.
So, so Ty, we'll talk about this on when we start the show proper. But how is Torrey Krug going to look in a Sevastopol Swallows jersey?
I don't know. I mean, it's funny. Like I think there's no way he goes there. I mean,
no,
it makes no sense. It's like one good year in the NHL. You're like, all right, I'm going to Russia. Then you come back and it's like, no, we're set. Thanks.
Right.
Well, it's not unprecedented. Mark Giordano did go to the KHL for a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I feel like his style is just best suited on the NHL ice and with the Bruins.
Yeah.
Or just with a strong sort of defensive system that allows him to be that guy in the power play and when he's out there at 5-on-5. What? All right.
What are we doing, Josh?
Just so you can see, it's Gretzky.
This is like the character from The Incredibles. Josh wears his suits backwards.
Crisscross.
Right. There you go. Lord. That's so funny. I got one of those too.
Jump! There you go.
All right.
That's my crisscross.
One of them died. Look at me throwing a dead guy out there.
Yeah, Mr. Sunshine. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, the guy who died, his name was Chris Kelly.
So it was
I got a news article saying Chris Kelly died. I went, what? It wasn't the Chris Kelly that I know.
Oh man! Holy cow! Holy cow!
Now let's get started, shall
Sorry,
we?
here. I got a couple things, then we'll get into the hockey news thing. Some of this stuff's fun. I got some funny notes. All right, here we go. We'll go. Should you go Mike, Ty, Josh, me?
Sure.
All right. It's the 15th of August.
Friday, August 15th. Yes.
Actually, is the 15th. We are doing the show on the 15th.
Yes. What a concept.
It's been a long week.
Mike, did you see Evan's?
My wife this morning. I'm like, doing double podcasts the second week in August. Tricky. So trying to talk and keeping things like, this is of all the weeks that this is. I will look forward to it next week when I'm sitting on the beach, though. So I will. But you know what's screwy here, and I gotta throw this out there first of all because let's start the show and I'll throw this out there. All right, here we go. Hey, Hockey World! It is Friday, August 15th, 2014.
I am Mike Lagello.
I'm Ty Anderson.
I'm Wayne Gretz. Oh no, Josh Rimmer.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com, coming to you this Friday, the last Friday before the last 2 weeks of August, which are generally the most dead weeks in the world. But we're going to talk to you about hockey today and get things going here. But I have to throw this out. Next week we'll be on vacation, but there will be podcasts all week. We've been recording podcasts secretly behind the scenes this week, so there will be podcasts all week reviewing teams and stuff like that. But I will. So I'm going to be on vacation. And it's so funny. Like I just have to throw this out there to all those who have kids in youth sports. The fact that there's a soccer tournament this weekend in Hershey and next weekend somewhere else in Pennsylvania, and I'm vacationing on the shore of New Jersey is just evil. Like I've got to go, and my whole family except for my daughter and I head out to Hershey tonight, and then everybody else goes to the shore, and then I go to the shore, and then next weekend when they're all staying at the shore, we come back to Pennsylvania. Youth soccer, man, youth soccer. So it's not cool, not a cool thing. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there, so I'm sure people can relate to it who have kids in youth sports. These 2 weekends are nuts. Anyway, we have the Kevin Hayes watch is on, kids. We do have a UFA deadline tonight. Will he or won't he get signed by midnight tonight? Tomorrow would be August 16th, and that means that Kevin Hayes will be a UFA. And there's not a whole lot of hoopla around this, or even other teams that are involved, because so far Kevin Hayes has basically said that he wants to be assured a starting spot. Which, I think, and it's funny because, when you're on a team like Chicago, to say you'd like to be in a top 9 forward is a little bit presumptuous, Ty. A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what it's taken guys like Jeremy Morin and Brandon Peary. I mean, these guys are guys they thought would have starting spots, and they're still battling. When they do battle, it's for a third, fourth line spot. So in Chicago, you don't just get a spot. There's a lot of guys you have to bump out of the way.
Right. I mean, there's guys like Kane and Hossa, and I mean, gosh.
Saad. Yeah.
Right. Saad and Taves and Brad Richards even. I mean, this is a lot of players in front of him. His brother Jimmy, this is Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy is in Florida, recently signed, and is playing. But Kevin is a Hobey Baker winner, so he does have a pedigree, and for sure there's people who are interested in him. But at this point, I haven't heard anybody really. I did hear a little bit about Nashville this morning, possibly, but I hadn't had a chance to follow it up before the podcast. But Mike, what's a good fit for Kevin Hayes in your mind?
I haven't heard a rumor about this, but a team like Buffalo would be a good fit because I think they have spots available. Ideally, or in a perfect world, maybe a team like Florida, but his brother is there, and his brother is fighting for probably a fourth line spot, so he'd probably be fighting his brother for one of the positions. But yeah, a team that's a team like Winnipeg, if it's a short-term deal, a team that doesn't have a lot of depth. I mean, it's not a complete sale right now that he's an NHL player. He's got to prove himself. Right. But he needs the opportunity to prove himself, and apparently he doesn't want to follow the same path as his brother, and his brother played in Rockford for I think most of 2 seasons and really didn't get more than a cup of coffee with the Blackhawks. And his representative said that is not a factor in him not signing with the Blackhawks, but I'm sorry. I think that's the agent covering for the player. I think it was a factor and is a factor. So I would be shocked if there's any agreement reached by midnight tonight, and I think he's going someplace else. But where, I don't know.
Josh, you remember when this happened with with R.J. Umberger?
Yeah.
He was signed to. It was the Penguins, right? The Penguins drafted him.
I would not be surprised though with Kevin Hayes.
I thought it was Vancouver.
Was it Vancouver that signed Umberger? I thought it was the Penguins. What? He's from Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what made me think of that. Go ahead, Josh.
I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Hayes ends up actually in Florida. The guy who drafted him is there, Dale Talon.
Yeah.
Nothing would surprise me if he somehow ends up in Florida. I mean, they have a good young team, and I think he could get possibly top 6 minutes in Florida. Maybe even third. Yeah, I think he can get top 6 minutes in Florida. I would not be surprised if that's where he ends up.
I don't know if he does or not. Florida's deeper than people realize. They've got a lot of good young players who like Ty said, have earned their spot into that. It's like kind of a ballsy thing to come in there and just say, okay, I'm going to be, he's got to earn. I mean, the NHL doesn't work this way. This is the problem. I mean, it's like, I remember one time having a talk with Hitchcock when he got moved out of Philly. And it was really frank. It's just nothing but not frank. Hitchcock is great. And he said, listen, it's like, this is like we're getting into the ESPNization, he called it, of hockey, where ESPN's a network that reports on individuals and not teams. And he's right about that. ESPN is a network that basically is a sports network, but it's not a team network. It's a player network. So it's like individual players are recorded on. And that has never been the case in hockey, that hockey players saw themselves like that. They always saw themselves in team ways. And he said when getting out of Philly, he had a real hard time with some of the players in Philly. And at that time, we're talking about Carter and Richards and those guys who just didn't see it. He thought were like the new generation. And Kevin Hayes is the same kind of thing. I mean, we've all been around hockey locker rooms, Ty. I mean, this doesn't fly.
No, I mean, it's a big thing when I've noticed the attitude of a new era player versus a veteran.
Yeah.
Interviewing guys like Recchi and McGinley, you kind of have that old time feel to it, even Chara to an extent. But when you talk to these young guys, you do sometimes, very rarely though, I want to say, you pick up on that sort of me mentality. Some guys have it, some guys don't. But when you do say I'm not going to sign up with the team that drafted me, and you hit this UFA market, it does rub guys the wrong way, I think, sometimes. Blake Wheeler kind of had a battle of that when he came to Boston. He didn't sign in Phoenix. He refused to sign with the Coyotes. He wanted to go to a bigger market, and everyone understood that. But when Wheeler came to the NHL, he had to prove it to everybody that he could just straight up win a spot on an NHL roster, and he did. But he had a battle of that as well. So it's funny, you see the different personalities that guys have, and it varies guy to guy. But that is an obstacle that he will have to overcome for sure.
I would think so. And correcting myself there, Kevin Hayes played next to the Obi Baker winner. That's what I was thinking. Next to Johnny Gaudreau, on the line with Johnny Gaudreau, who won the Obi Baker. Kevin did not win the Obi Baker. Now Gaudreau is in Calgary. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, and also the other line mate from that line at Boston is at Boston College. Was it right? Yeah, Boston College. Is also in Calgary. So, Mike, you put them together and bring a Boston College line to the NHL? Does that work?
Well, there is another team that has that has the space, that has I would say enough.
Who loves American players? But then again, this is Brian Burke, who
Brian Burke likes big players, and he's a
big American players, but not big on individuals though. He's a more really team player oriented. That's the only thing. But continue. Sorry.
Right, no, but I'm just saying, Burke likes players with size. Hayes is 6'3", 205 pounds. He likes American players. He likes tapping into the U.S. college market. He brought Tyler Bozak to the Leafs from the University of Denver. He signed a couple other, free agent. And this is not a free agent situation, but in a way it is now.
It will be.
So yeah, so I think it lends itself to a guy like Burke who's willing to take a chance, and I think Hayes has something to prove. And he would get an opportunity, I think, with Calgary. And yes, the combo there of Gaudreau and him might work. I'm not sure if either one of them are NHL players. They have to prove themselves. but it's it would be a good experiment to try.
It would be, and I mean, I just want to see. I don't know. Yeah, you want to see him earn his spot, and I know this is the issue. There's so many different things too. Like we don't know everything, and I always caution myself in these situations. Remembering things that weird situations in the past, like Lindros in Quebec or Umberger, which was Vancouver, like you said. You don't always know. And Primo, remember the Primo holdout in Carolina. I always think of these certain situations that were really. And I've talked to guys like Primo. There's a lot more to that than just the money. It was a lot more to these situations than just the money. And maybe Kevin Hayes has something else. Maybe he was promised something in Chicago that wasn't followed up on. That's always possible too. So we don't know everything, but.
And there are some players who this contract might be the only sizable professional contract that they get. There was a player who was traded to Toronto from Chicago in the Chris Versteeg deal a few years ago, named Bill Sweat, I believe it was. And he was a college player, and it was a similar situation where he didn't want to sign with the Leafs. He wanted to go to be a free agent, and he ended up signing. I think it was with Vancouver. Never has amounted to much, but
yeah.
he got the deal that the best deal that he could in the situation that he was in, and that might be what is with Hayes. I mean, right now he's not for sure going to be an NHL player. He's got something to prove. He made this is his one opportunity to maybe either get a one-way contract or get a chance at the big time, and he's got to push it for all he can.
Ty, do you know if he's from New England? Is he from New England as well?
Yeah, he's from Dorchester, Massachusetts. So he's got local ties for sure. I mean, Boston is an interesting fit. It would be, anyways.
Yeah.
They do have that hole in the right side, especially in their top line right now.
Yeah.
It would create a bit of a logjam, though. I think they just signed their first-round pick, David Pastrnak, who's a right winger. They signed him to an entry-level deal. They think he'll compete for a spot. Riley Smith, he's going to be here. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
And Louis Eriksson also, I think they think he's more than a third liner. So you'd like to see him on the first or second line. So while Hayes would be an intriguing fit, there's a lot of moving parts that would sort of have to fall into place for it. I think it could work if you want to put Riley Smith in that third line and Eriksson on the first or second and have Hayes get that spot. But again, I think long term it creates a bit of a headache for Chiarelli and company.
I wouldn't change anything from what you did last year with Riley Smith, in my opinion. I mean, that seemed like the perfect fit. Everything where he played, the amounts of minutes he got, it really Riley Smith. Some teams bring out the best in a player, and that Boston brought out the best in Riley Smith, I felt.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you put him with Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
He had that hot month of December. He's on the third line. He gets moved up. He's playing with Bergeron, and I think Bergeron's a guy who can make a lot of players much better. You've seen that time and time again. And I think that really, you look at Riley Smith's playoffs, and I thought he played unbelievable for the Bruins. He was one of their best forwards, I think, on the roster. So I would keep that together as well. It's really all about having that $4.25 million man on the third line, Louis Eriksson. I think they want more out of him, and they might try to, get the most bang for your buck, if you will, with him up top. So we'll see what happens there. But I agree, Riley Smith is a perfect fit for that second line with Bergeron and Marchand.
Well, Boston, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem like a team that has three, not equal lines, but I wouldn't say that they have a third line, so to speak. They feel like they have three lines, and then they have a fourth line.
Yeah, I mean that's been their MO since 2011 playoffs. Now they realize they need three lines. It's a 1A, 1B, and 1C, especially with Soderberg now centering a third line. I mean,
come on,
high-end skill guy you have on the third line.
And that's why Boston's still the team to beat in these by far. Josh, you have anything going on there?
No, I not right now, but yeah, you guys were just talking about the Boston Bruins and where guys fit, and obviously Riley Smith and when he's going to sign. I'm surprised actually that he hasn't signed yet. That it's taken quite some time, but Riley Smith, I could see him playing top 6 minutes in Boston. I don't know. Looking at Louis Eriksson, I really always worry about his health here the last couple of years and everything that he's had to take, the headshots. But I really like Riley Smith a lot, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if a deal's done here in the next week or two before camp starts.
Yeah.
Ty, your compatriot Joe Haggerty wrote, I think it was this morning, that there's still that speculation that the Bruins are going to move someone out to open up some room. The name Adam McQuaid was mentioned, and Warshawski was another guy, but I don't think he's going to get that big of a deal. But that they want to lock up Johnny Boychuk to a long-term deal. What are your thoughts on the bottom half of the Bruins defense and where you think they're going to go?
Well, I think that McQuaid seems like the obvious man out. It's very similar to Mark Stewart's situation before he got traded to Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta.
Nice, Thrashers.
He was just kind of getting passed on the depth chart by a lot of different guys that had come through the system. And McQuaid's inability to stay on the ice, it's not his fault, but it is a huge issue for the Bruins. And if you trade him now, you're not going to get a great return. But if he gets injured again, you're not going to get a return at all. So we'll see. I think that McQuaid is the likeliest man to get traded because he does carry a $1.5 million cap hit. Warsofsky's the guy you really only count against the cap for $700,000, so that's not a huge contract to move if you have to. So it really doesn't create the space that you want. So I really think that McQuaid is the guy. It'd be interesting to see if it happens before camp because we haven't seen him skate in a very long time now, since January. So teams might want to get a look, make sure he's healthy before they make the move. But he is a guy that I think they definitely would move if it's right because they do have Kevin Miller, who is a McQuaid type defenseman, bangs bodies, block shots, fights when he needs to. He destroyed Travis Moan in the fight earlier this season, and I think that's a guy they're looking at. They say, yeah, we can put him with Torrey Krug, and it's not a great loss, versus McQuaid. So I think in going to, on Johnny Boychuk, I think when you look at Chara's age and you look at sort of the wear and tear on him, I think that he is a guy that you'd want to commit long-term to if the price is right. He's not a $6 million defenseman, but he is a pretty expensive piece.
Right. I totally agree. Josh?
Yeah, Ty, two...
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I muted Josh. I muted you temporarily, Ty. You can unmute yourself. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all good.
Josh,
two young guys on the blue line who were just brought up in Torrey Krug and Dougie Hamilton. Krug had a huge year last year. Do you think he can have as good as a year this year, or do you think that maybe Dougie Hamilton has a bigger year and steps it up in Boston?
I think that Krug, a lot of his damage is done on the power play, and I still think that he has the tools to be that weapon for them, especially with Zdeno Chara playing down low, which is a huge thing. It opens up the lane for a Krug shot, and he gets a lot of those, those secondary assists where it just tips off someone and goes in, and they're battling in front for the puck, whatever it may be. But I still think that he is their top power play weapon on that point. Dougie Hamilton has the chance, I think, to emerge as that top power play unit guy. But with Hamilton, it seems like they're putting a strong emphasis on his game in both ends. They like what he does defensively. They love what he does offensively. But they really sort of let him be that guy defensively this season. He had a lot of penalty killing experience towards the end, and I think that's, if they can get the 40 points, 50 points out of Hamilton, they'll be thrilled. They know that's his ceiling, that's his area right now. But for him, it's really growing as a defensive defenseman as well.
And what happened with Krug there at the end of the year? He seemed only, I believe he had 6 points in the last 24 games. His game really tailed off there in the end. Was he hurt, or maybe he just stopped stepping it up?
I think there was a bit there where the late season sort of malaise kicked in for the Bruins as a team. Krug was a guy that was affected by it. I think Iginla was. I'm not sorry, Iginla. The Krejci and Lucic and all those guys, I think they were as well. For the Bruins, that's been an effort. That's been an area of concern. I think is that these guys don't finish the year strong because they already see the playoffs in front of them and they kind of tone it back a bit.
Sure.
So I think Krug, while he had a mild end to the season, some of that could have been teams noticing that this kid has a shot and he has playmaking ability. So it could have been teams playing him a bit stronger. But in the playoffs, I think he turned it on. He was honestly one of their better defensemen, I think, especially in that Detroit series. He looked unbelievable. So, he's a guy I think that what you saw last year, he's the real deal. He's almost the he averages I think half a point a game, and he's been around for a little while now. So
fun to watch. He does surprise you. He really does surprise you. He's one of those. I mean, Boston has a lot of players like this, though, Ty. I mean, it's like from an outside. I mean, it's a team with a real embarrassment of riches. I mean, it's just. I mean, that they can let a guy like McQuaid go is amazing. I mean, when you think about all the teams in the league that would kill to have that kid.
Yeah.
It's really something else. Man, sorry, my text is going crazy. And rumors. I'll check that out in a second because I think that may have something to do with what we're talking about. But in rumors out there, I wrote a couple things today. It's funny. There are about 4 teams, I think, that best I could tell. I did a precursory sort of search around the league between the last 3 days when we weren't doing a podcast, which wasn't very often, and I came up with basically 4 teams that are still unfinished in their minds, like unfinished symphonies of Edmonton, Toronto, Edmonton, Toronto, the Islanders, and the Sharks. Okay, so these are the 4 teams that I found us. The Sharks. Obviously, we talked yesterday, Mike. They have to not be unfinished based on what they said. I mean, they've done very little. They've lost more.
Right.
I mean, who they add? We talked about. They added
John Scott.
They added John Scott.
Wow. I mean, Milan Lucic is going to be shaken when it's that Boston San Jose game. But the problem is John Scott would actually have to be able to skate to catch him.
When you're adding a player who's more likely to be suspended for more games than he scores goals in his career, that's not good.
I mean, I said to Matt Berry, apparently San Jose's approach to the LA Kings is they want to beat the crap out of them in the alley before the game because, with Mike Brown, Rafi Torres, and John Scott, because they didn't do anything to change the team that blew a 3-0 lead in the first round last year.
They did.
They didn't improve the goaltending. Their defense, in a way, got worse. They traded Brad Stewart. They let Dan Boyle go and they moved Brent Burns back there, and all they did up front is add John Scott. I don't know what Doug Wilson is doing, but he must be taking a nice vacation in San Francisco right now.
Well, and they keep saying something that's really funny. They've said a couple things about their goaltending. They've said we're going to get younger, and I still haven't seen that happen. But they continually say they're going to get younger, which brings up a rumor that I heard today as well. So I'll get to that. That's a little hint. It's a little.
Well, I think
the other thing they said, Mike, was that they said their team was going to be one of the youngest teams in the NHL. Well, right now, I mean, they're not there. They're still the same team they were, and they haven't. I mean, they have some, unless they've got some prospects that we don't know about that are just going to rock the boat. I mean, they've got guys like Urkel and these characters who are really good young players, and they have a good young core. The Sharks are built. I mean, save the fact that they lost to LA last year. The Sharks were a hell of a good team, and they fell apart in that series. But man, they almost swept the team that won the Stanley Cup on the other side of things. So you have to look at it that way too. I'm
not sure how much they think of Alex Stalock, if they think Alex Stalock is ready to take over for Antti Niemi. I mean, we saw what they put Stalock in Game 6 against the Kings after they had lost 2 games,
True.
Which was sort of a panic move, and it really didn't pan out. And then, Niemi didn't play very well in Game 7. I mean, no, I don't think that the problem of the Sharks last year was goaltending. It was a complete multi-system failure, and their core has done nothing but lose, choke in the last few years, and they've done absolutely nothing to change it.
Well, and I think we had, if you guys didn't see, we had Matt Barry on yesterday from LA, who basically said the happiest moment in his life this past year, beyond winning a Stanley Cup, was hearing that McClellan would be retained. Just feeling that, like that, he honestly felt like, McClellan was completely outcoached, and he was outcoached in that LA series, because there's no way you should lose that series. There's no reason to change just because you lose Game 4. What happened to me, in my opinion, when I've seen teams come back from 3-0 before, no offense, Ty. And so, I mean, what happens in those recoveries from 3-0 are, you might win. Often teams win Game 4, and teams aren't swept. That's a common thing, and it's Game 5 in everyone. And this is true in every one of these situations. It's Game 5, and even 3-1 leads, it's Game 5. That is the game that if you lose the 3-1 lead or the 3-0 lead, you look back on Game 5 and with dread, and it's always the case. It's like even in the Boston Phillies series, you can remember it was Game 5. It's like that is the moment when you're like, oh man, because you're up 3-1, you're up 3-0, you're up, whatever it is, and you're up 3-1. Obviously, if it's Game 5, you're up 3-1, and you're still feeling good about yourself. You're like, teams never come back from 3-1 leads, hardly ever, So you're feeling good. And teams pull their foot off the brake, and that's the problem. And then Game 6 is if you lose Game 5, Game 6 is like nightmarish, and because it's one game away from 7. So to me, the Sharks lost Game 4 and it was they lost it pretty good, right? And they almost lost Game 3, if you remember. They got to overtime in Game 3, right? And there
was overtime.
Right, Marlowe's overtime in Game 3. So they get through Game 3. If you lose Game 4, just don't worry about it. But what they did after Game 4 is they changed their entire team system around when they were up 3-1. You won the first 3 games. You lost 1 game. So what? Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to win 1 of the last 3. Just like that's what you have to think. But instead they turned. McClellan did blow it, in my opinion. So, that's neither here nor there. So the rumor that comes into this, okay, is James Reimer, who I am fully now 100%. I'm going to put this on my board because I have these crazy things I've written on my board so far. Things I think are ridiculous. I write on my board back here. Okay, so one of them, Mike, is that Brad Richards will score 50-plus points. Another is, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. This is the next point, that James Reimer will end the year as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that happens. He might start the year there, but he's not going to end the year. And talking to people there, at least are trying to move him. And the other day, I think Shanahan came out and said to somebody, I don't even know who, that the Leafs weren't done yet, or that they still, one of the.
Well, that's been interpreted a number of ways, Zach. They haven't hired a second assistant general manager yet. I think the speculation is that what that was in reference to. But
they're still deciding on steak or salmon for the pregame meals and things like that. But
I vote for steak.
When he says they're not done, from Brandon Shanahan, that to a media person, that means they're not done.
Well, people are drawing conclusions of the fact that Brendan Shanahan has flown out to Prince Edward Island to, conference with Dion Phaneuf this weekend. He had a trip to go golfing in Prince Edward Island, and he's, Phaneuf summers there, so they're just meeting. They're reading way too much into it.
It sounds really romantic. Brendan Shanahan and Phaneuf out on Prince Edward Island. Yeah. Anyway.
Nobody's reading that into it, Eck.
Well, no, I just think those are two people that yeah. I wouldn't put as romantics as part of their Facebook profile, but so Dion Phaneuf and Brendan.
But to your point about Reimer, I mean.
Yeah, he's out of there, and the problem is this: Winnipeg is the obvious, and we've been talking about Winnipeg, and are they going to go with Pavlik? Who is? I like Pavlik, but at some point, even now, I think Winnipeg realizes they've got to change this, right? This is not working. Reimer's from there, wants to go there, signed a 2-year deal, which was incredibly curious for a player who just asked for a trade. When a player signs a 2-year deal who just asked for a trade, that means that he was told, listen, we can trade you if you give us a 2-year deal, not we're going to keep you here for 2 more years. We can trade, but we can't trade you on a 1-year deal and when you're a UFA. We need you 2 years so we can trade you somewhere so someone knows they have you signed. Josh, you have something going on right now?
Let Josh go.
Yes, I do. The Boston Bruins have invited former Philadelphia Flyer Simone Gagne to training camp.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh, nice.
Wow, there's your right wing, Ty.
Yeah, talking about slaving up the barrel.
I'm happy for Simone. That's awesome. He's a wonderful person, and he's been, I know he was trying to get invites. I know he even talked to the Flyers. I think the Flyers, they brought him back a few years ago and tried. And speaking of, the Game 7 comebacks, right? Simone Gagne. Yeah, but Ty, what do you think of that?
This is a player that I think Chiarelli's always had an eye on.
Yeah.
You look back towards 2010, summer 2010, after the Flyers eliminated the Bruins. The Bruins really wanted to get Gagne. I think and this is when they were floating the idea of Tim Thomas for Gagne maybe, and the Bruins wanted a bit more, and the rest is history obviously. But I think that he's always been a player that's been on their radar. They always looked at him even when he went to LA and Tampa. He was the guy they looked at as a cheap fix in a trade. Maybe you can throw him in there and get some scoring. So, he's another guy who's had some health issues obviously. It's well documented at this point. But in terms of invites, what do you lose here? It's not like a contract. It's be with this veteran who has more experience than half your guys in your roster, which is saying something, really, considering how much of a veteran team the Bruins are. So it's definitely an interesting pick, and I think if you're the Bruins, you have to at least try this. Just see what he's got. See if he has anything left in the tank that he can contribute.
Last time I talked to Simone Gagne, he was it was this year, and it was what he was doing was really funny. He was doing there's this sport in Canada. Josh, I'm not sure what you call it. It's like a it's a crazy speed skating sport where it's speed skating with all these obstacles and crazy. And they're like, I don't know. It reminds you of like speed skating and Mario Kart. It's basically Mario Kart and speed skating, and it's this wacky sport. And Simone was working for TVA, a French Canadian station up there, right?
Yeah. Sounds like the morning drive on the Gardner.
Right. No, and he was actually going around. He was a correspondent, and was actually going around the course, reporting on what it was like. And it was like he was speed skating through, and there was like barrels that were being thrown, and you get over this thing. It's almost like roller derby on ice, but it looked pretty cool. And I was like, wow, this is a guy with concussion issues doing this crazy thing. But he's a great skater still. I mean, beyond he's always been able to skate. He's always been able to fly. He's a great finisher. He's a great locker room guy. In many ways, like Recchi. I mean, the Kings really said they missed him after they lost him during that Cup run. They said he was a big part of it.
Now let me ask you guys: was there a better option though out there to invite to camp than Gagne? Because there's still quite a few guys that are still unsigned.
Not that would take invites, though. I think I don't think we're at the invite point yet for like Setaguchi and players like that. I actually think Setaguchi will get signed today. That's a little bold prediction, but I'm gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was. I mean, there are players out there right now. I mean, besides Setaguchi, like Penner.
Yeah.
Who I think would still be worthy of getting a 1-year contract. But guys like Ville Leno, guys like Ryan Malone, who we talked about yesterday, and, guys who are long on the tooth like Saku Koivu or Ray Whitney, they might be training camp invites. They might be. That's the only way that they're going to get a spot this year is to go to a camp.
If you're the Bruins, though. If you're the Bruins, though, I know he's up there in age, but maybe Ray Whitney might have been a good guy to bring in, not only because he still has that speed. I know he's 41, 42 years old, but he's a good locker room guy. He's a good leadership guy, and I think
Whitney will find a home, too. Yeah, Whitney will find a home. It depends where he goes. I mean, he also – there's a lot of guys right now we're at that point where Setaguchi wants a 2-year deal. Probably not going to get it, but he's still holding on a 2-year deal. And I think Whitney's in the same boat. As old as Whitney is, still wants a 2-year deal. I was told.
Wow.
Probably not going to get it, but for their opinion, like why not try it? Well, for Whitney, why not try? Setaguchi's maybe shouldn't do that, but
yeah, the music hasn't stopped yet. You've got almost a month before.
It hasn't. There's a lot of players out there. There's a lot of defensemen out there. There's a lot of veteran people out there right now. I can guarantee you, Ty, if you want to look into this story with Gagne, you should start by talking to Recchi, because I think that would have had something to do with this, because Recchi and Gagne are close, and Gagne would have definitely talked to Rex beforehand and said, what's it like to play in Boston, should I go up for this invite? Is it a waste of my time?
Yeah.
And chances are, who knows if he makes the team? They're probably legitimately trying to see how healthy he is, but if he's healthy, there's a good shot he'll make the team. He's the kind of player who, if he's healthy, still can impress in a training camp type situation or something like that. Whether he can go long term or not, I don't know.
I think a lot of people forget too. I mean, we talk about him like he's 45. I mean, he's only 34. So there's there's still some. You'd think there's some left in the.
Oh yeah. He's an old 34. It feels like because of his injuries. It's like Brian Marchand, he is older than he thinks, and you think he is too, just because of the injuries and because of the style he plays. Now, Gagne did play. What people don't remember about Simone Gagne, which I always think is fascinating, is Gagne came into the Flyers under I think it was it Keenan? I think it was Keenan. And when he came into the Flyers, I gotta check this out. Whatever coach it was, I'm pretty sure it's Mike Keenan. Damn, I know Bill Meltzer. If you're watching, text me right away. I think it was Keenan. Whoever it was, they made Gagne into a defensive forward when he first came. He was not defensive at all, and Keenan's like, if you're going to make it in the NHL, you're going to have to play defensively, and he became a really good defensive forward.
His first year was 99.
99, so that wouldn't have been for Gagne.
Yeah.
In Philly.
Yep.
No. Hold on, I gotta check that again. Anyway, is that true? All right, I believe you. Anyway, whoever it was, because Simone Gagne played. Am I losing my mind? He used to be on Team Canada. He was on Team Canada those first couple of years when he was young. Josh, remember Simone Gagne was like the defensive specialist for Team Canada for a while there.
He was on Team Canada in Salt Lake. Yeah, his rookie year was 99-2000.
All right, yes, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, that Olympics. Okay, got it. So he was on Team Canada, and he was also in the World Cup of Hockey. He was on Team Canada, and he was, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but he was the defensive specialist, Josh. That's why he was there. So
For
that's
Team Canada.
That's the thing about Simone Gagne is you're not just getting a guy who's got speed and scoring, but actually is responsible in his own end. So you're getting something that fits in with Boston too, because Boston loves two-way players, and he's another two-way player.
Yeah, he could be like a latter-day Bobby Carpenter. I mean, Bobby Carpenter scored 50 goals with the Capitals, but then later in his career, like with the Devils, he was strictly a defensive forward. And if he's healthy enough, he could fit in a third, fourth line role.
It's a really good comparison to Carpenter. Yeah, I agree. That's definitely the kind of player he is. So getting back to Reimer for a second, so I've heard Winnipeg obviously, but for Toronto to make this deal, they're really trying to get a second partner in here. It's better to have two people bidding on you. You know, we all know this. Well, and right now, the idea is San Jose. You know, now San Jose said they wanted to get younger in goal, and think about who's out there that could possibly pertain to. Really, no one. I mean, there's really no goalies out there that are left that are younger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, than Niemi, with the exception of Reimer. You know, so Reimer could be you know the Sharks' option there. The Sharks have plenty of players to move. They've got lots of depth, you know, and they've got a good team. So
it's I mean it is a possibility. I mean the thing is that the reported price coming back for Reimer in the deals that have been bandied about over the summer was nothing more than a mid-round pick, like a fourth or fifth rounder, and the Leafs are not going to give up a pretty good backup goaltender for that. Now, you know, Reimer wants to be a number one. He's not going to be a number one in Toronto unless Bernier gets hurt again.
Right.
You know, the problem is, you know, San Jose would either have to dispatch Niemi someplace or Stalock someplace, or you know, send him back.
Well, Niemi could come back in that deal. I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, you know, Niemi could come back as the backup. You know, for the.
But he makes more than Reimer does.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think it's going to have to be creative, no matter how they slice it. It's going to have to be a creative move. There's probably going to have to be another player involved as well, with Reimer going to Winnipeg or there. The other, because we are running out of time, the other one I wanted to throw out there was the Edmonton Oilers, who are still looking for a defenseman, and they're still looking for a kind of like a veteran forward who can kill penalties in the bottom six type guy. You know, now defensively, they've always had interest in Braden Coburn, and I've heard that's back on again. And the interesting thing about that, of course, is, you know, the belief, and I just talked to Bill Meltzer about this a little bit ago, text-wise, you know, that with Kimmo Timonen going down, you would think Coburn, you know, there's no way at this point they would move Braden Coburn. Well, this does tie into the whole Bogosian thing that I talked about last week, and this would be connected to that. Obviously, it's not a three-way trade, but it would be, if the Flyers could clear up the cap space they need to get Bogosian, Coburn could be a way to do that. So.
It's hilarious that the Edmonton Oilers are still looking for a defenseman after they've added 3 defensemen in the summer.
I know, but they haven't added necessarily the kind of defenseman they were looking for, and they should still be looking for a defenseman because they were horrible. They were the worst defensive team in the league by a lot last year, and they should be looking for a defenseman. The other person they're talking to is Jordan Tutu, a friend of the show's, and he also has recently turned down a few two-way deals. Apparently, I think one of them got out there to
Winnipeg.
Yeah, there's a couple. There were 2 more. So there are opportunities for Jordan Tutu. So you know, but he Edmonton might be willing to give him a one-way deal if that happens. I actually think someone's gonna win with Jordan Tutu. I really do. I think that's gonna be a surprise signing, and if you're a certain kind of team who needs a spark plug type player, like Winnipeg does. I mean, who knows if Winnipeg doesn't come back and offer him a 1-year deal and actually get that done. I still think that could happen. Winnipeg could use that deal, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player too. I think he just had a bad fit in Detroit.
Yeah, and then he was a salary cap issue, you know, as well. You know, so he got buried because of the salary he signed, which is always a problem. But yeah, he's always been that. I'd rather have him than Downey, than like the Penguins signed Downey. I think I'd rather have Tutu. Mike?
Maybe San Jose can use another guy for their fourth line.
Well, that would again prove to you that they were just trying to kill the Kings if they got Jordan Tutu and just frustrate the hell out of them, right?
Yeah.
You know, there are opportunities for Tutu. People are in the chat room are saying there aren't. There really are. I mean, he's the kind of guy that people do want. So the Coburn deal who would be coming back from Edmonton? Not much. It would be really a salary dump deal, and it would be tied to the fact that Flyers would have another deal going for Zach Bogosian, and that would be something. You won't see LeCavier. LeCavier won't go to a Canadian team, so that's not going to happen. That could possibly happen eventually, but not now. So that's actually all the time we have for today, guys. It was a quick show, really quick show. I appreciate you guys all joining us. If you're hanging out in the chat room, we're going to be doing a show right after this, and then a show right after that. So if you want to hang in the chat room for the next couple hours, we're going to be here bringing you hockey all afternoon from this Friday. Our next and we'll be away for the weekend, and then I'll be still writing blogs next week involving rumors, but I will be on vacation. We won't be doing podcasts, but we'll be posting podcasts, and we did some really good podcasts. We talked to Katie Brown, the Washington Capitals. Who else did we talk to this week as our second podcast? Well, Matt, right? Yesterday.
Yeah.
Was that the first? That was yesterday. That we did that yesterday. I'm trying to think of
all the webcasts are a blur right now.
I know. I'm trying to think who was. There's a bunch of good ones that you'll see next week, and including this next one. Ty, hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
And thanks for joining us. It was nice to have some Bruins news right here as we were going.
Yeah, I know that doesn't ever happen because
I know
leads out there right now. So
I know, and good luck. Oh, by the way, I have to say this before we go. Josh,
yes,
we're going to be doing the Ice Bucket Challenge today.
Yes, I am. Yep, I'm going to be leaving. Oh yeah, I'm so excited, Eck.
Ice, water, and
50-degree weather here in Toronto. Beautiful outside. So, I'm going to be freezing my arse off outside and going to be challenging someone that does this podcast every day with us. And we'll see
who that could be.
I don't know. But make sure you check out at Josh Rimmer Hockey for who I challenge later on today.
You got to see Josh's dad's Jeff's one, too. It's really good. And it also. Oh, by the way, I did promise you I would bunk Tuesdays 44 on my favorite Marvel movie. My favorite Marvel movie. It has definitely the Avengers by far at this point. But I will say Guardians of the Galaxy. Did you see Guardians of the Galaxy, Ty?
Oh yeah, loved it. We talked about it I think last week.
That's right, we did. It's all blurring together. But that was phenomenal.
But touching on Zoe Saldana a second time is never a bad thing.
And again, I always go green or go home, and she's green, and I'd go home with her. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still more of an Avatar girl guy myself. But anyway, when you're talking about space alien women. Anyway, So no, I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was amazing, and there were some really good scenes in it that I watched it again. And it's worth seeing again because there actually are some really good like fan throwback comic book stuff in there that I missed the first time around. That was just phenomenal. And that scene, oh man, no spoilers, but that scene at the end, that was pretty heart-wrenching. I mean, the Root character was just phenomenal. Oh my gosh, really good in that movie. So good. All right. So that's it. Ty's already done, by the way, for those asking. Already done the Ice Bucket Challenge once or twice?
I've done it twice. I'm going to do it again because I hate myself. No, I just I think it'll be fun. I keep getting challenged. I keep posting it, and then people challenge me again, so I have to delete it and then do another one with like a new shout out to them too. I think it's a big conspiracy, to be honest with you.
Just same ice bucket. Yeah. Doing the same thing.
Oh, my kids want me to do it again. They had so much fun. But yeah. Julie Robenheimer did it. By the way, you can find it on her Instagram. So it was impressive. And so did Gary Bettman. You might want to check that out too. I was going to show you guys that, but we ran out of time. So maybe we'll show you that next week on one of our podcasts. But anyway, that's it, guys. Without the buzz, it is just hockey. Talk to you soon.